quarters of this year, we're seeing the economy growing in the wrong direction, not growing, and you're seeing companies freeze, as you said, salaries and making these layoffs. And it just goes to show that the liberal elites are just out of touch with the rest of the country. They don't understand the recession because they don't know anyone that works at Walmart and they don't shop there. This is a place where people go to save money. When you're going to buy eggs and a gallon of milk, I checked early this morning, I compared Walmart to my local grocery stores. It was 20% less to go buy basic necessities at Walmart than any other grocery store where I live. And most American families are seeing that. You're seeing in some of the other indicators with Walmart, they're not buying whole wheat products. They're buying white bread, for example. But Washington is totally out of control. They think they can handle a recession and inflation with more spending. And Congress is going to be called up probably on Monday to vote for or against another massive deficit spending bill by the Biden administration that will increase taxes and increase inflation. You can't stop this by having more taxes and more spending. You've got to cut taxes. You've got to cut spending. And Joe Biden and the administration are doing what's opposite of what's needed today.
What do you think that we could do to be able to push back a little bit more? Obviously, a lot of weight and the burden of this falling now on Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin. You know, he blocked the previous versions of larger spending bills. But Kyrsten Sinema giving some pushback now, asking for some revisions, trying to make some negotiations. At the end of the day, it seems like something of this ilk is going to pass.
It does. And you're seeing a lot of pressure put on Senator Sinema in getting on board with that bill. And Schumer's comments earlier this morning saying they're going to get through it. It'll be unanimous on their side. I am thankful that she is holding it up at this point and pointing to some of the taxes. And there are taxes on corporations in there. The Biden administration thinks if you tax corporations, well, that's just going to solve the $350 billion hole that they're trying to fill right now. But unfortunately, when you tax corporations or small businesses, that tax is not free to the American people. Somebody's going to pay that bill, and it'll be largely on the backs of hardworking Americans and their families because prices will go up inevitably in whatever product they're producing. And so that's not the answer. And if Sinema does come on board, well, then it likely could pass potentially, which will be devastating to our economy and continue the record inflation we're seeing right now, which is about 9.1% so far this year. It's untenable. And when you couple that with the crashing real estate market because interest rates are going up, it's a really dire forecast for companies going forward for the next 6 to 12 months.
And I want to drill down on that point for a moment because there were a lot of semantics involved in what constitutes a recession, right? And now we're talking about what constitutes a tax hike. The Democrats are saying, well, we're not raising your tax bracket. So what we promised you that we won't raise taxes on individuals under $400,000, making under $400,000 a year. Well, that's true. We're keeping our promise. But then the other side argues when corporations pass on these see these tax hikes and then they pass it on to consumers through pricing, and we're dealing with inflation all around us, paying more for goods and services. Effectively, these are tax hikes, and people are feeling that.
Absolutely. Inflation is taxation. And when you run up the score and you look at the cost of everything being higher, far higher now than a year ago and even 2 years ago, and you see that American families are losing an entire month's salary due to inflation, and not to mention the cost of utilities are up, this is a tax on every hardworking American. I talked to a mom a couple of days ago who had a $200 allowance for clothing for herself and kids, and now that $200 is going to gas and fuel for her to get her kids to school and to their activities. And people are making some tough decisions, and it's not going to get better. And you cannot raise taxes and increase spending and expect the American people not to feel that pain at the pump, at the grocery store, or even when they're at Walmart buying basic human necessities.
And if I could take that one step further, when that mom makes the decision not to spend the $200 on her clothing budget, for example, that's when the corporation is going to suffer. If enough people start doing that and they suffer, they start reporting weaker earnings, and maybe then the Democrats will realize that we are in a recession. I don't know. Congresswoman Mace, good to see you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.